March is Women's History Month, which highlights women's contributions to events in history and in contemporary society. While it is important to remember women who have made impacts in the fight for equal opportunities, experts say more progress is still needed. In comments for International Women's Day, Sima Bahaus, Executive Director of UN Women, says that progress to a more gender-equal world is being undermined by interlocking and compounded crises. This year especially highlights the impact of the pandemic on women's equality. With us to discuss the current state of women's equality is Anita Bhatia, Deputy Executive Director of UN Women. Welcome to Forum Daily.
Nice to be with you.
Great to have you. Now, what is the importance of remembering women who've made significant impacts in the fight for equal opportunities today?
You know, the world committed to achieving sustainable development goals by 2030. And one of the most important sustainable development goals is SDG 5, which is focused on gender equality. But when you look at the fact that we're only 8 years away from 2030, and you look at the amount of progress that's been made on SDG 5, you realize that we have a very long way to go. And if anything, all of the challenges have been exacerbated by the pandemic. That's why Women's History Month, it takes on even more importance today than ever before, because it's important to remember that we are actually riding on the work of many, many brave women's rights activists who have gone before us and whose work was instrumental in laying out a framework for gender equality that we must all abide by and live by if we want to build a sustainable world coming out of the pandemic. That's why Women's History Month is so important, because it is important to sort of sit back, reflect, and remember contributions of women who've gone before us, but also keep attention highlighted on the work we still have to do. You know, people have short memories, crises come and go. And so you have to find a way through all the noise to keep focused on really important issues like gender equality.
Speaking of staying focused on the task at hand, how would you describe the current state of women's equality, both here in Canada and around the world?
Look, we've made a lot of progress in the last 25 years. So if you look at where we were at the time that the Beijing conference took place, which was 26 years ago, where Hillary Clinton famously said women's rights are human rights, a lot has changed in the world since then. We've seen big advances in access to education for girls. We've seen big advances in maternal mortality rates. We've seen big advances in women's representation. But actually, when you look in absolute terms, there is still a huge amount of work to be done because the baseline that we were starting from 26 years ago was pretty low. So just to give you an idea of how things still are not there yet, if you look at how many parliamentarians worldwide are women, it's only 25% of all parliamentarians who are women. It's not 50-50 yet. If you look at heads of state or heads of government, less than 10% of heads of state or government are women. And if you look at gender equal cabinets, you know, we have 193 member states in the United Nations and less than 20 of them have gender equal cabinets. So that's just one area of work. And then big problems that women have faced for a long time, like violence against women, have actually not gone down. They've actually gone up during the pandemic. And many areas where we were improving, for example, women being in the labor force, women holding jobs, all of those things have gotten much worse during the pandemic. So overall, I would say the picture is not a good one because many of the advances that we have made were undone in the last 2 years.
Yeah, the pandemic has really played a tremendous role in many, many different facets of society. Focusing on the future here, about 30 seconds left now. What more needs to be done in the global fight for equality?
Well, first, governments have to acknowledge this is a problem, and they have to have special policies to focus on it. When you look at the stimulus packages that were put together after the pandemic, many of them did not reach women. The money did not reach women. So governments have to recognize it's an issue, deal with it. The private sector has a role to play. This is too big a problem to be solved just by government. There's got to be a public and a private partnership approach to it. Leadership matters, and we need women at the decision-making table in order to see real change.
women at the table to see real change. Well, thank you so much for that, Anita Bhatia, Deputy Director of UN Women. All right, we'll be back after the break with a look at electricity and the role it might play in the ongoing energy crisis. We have an interview with Parker Gallant, energy researcher and regular contributor at the Financial Post. Stay with us right here on Forum Daily. We'll be right back.